We need to keep our distance.
Well, Mike, nice to meet you.
Hey, nice to meet you. Thank you for coming.
Well, first of all, congratulations on the film.
Thank you so much.
I saw it. It's wild. I loved it. It's kind of messed up, but in a good way.
Perfect.
And also, it's the fact that background behind the film, it's your first feature film. And it went at Sundance, it got picked up. Now it's still standing at 100% Rotten Tomatoes. I don't want to jinx it.
Yeah.
I don't want to jinx it. What's your feeling right now?
I still kind of can't believe that that people are loving the film so much, and you know, it's about to come out in theaters everywhere, and like that's really scary. It's been so wonderful sharing it with audiences, but because it's been like, you know, limited festival runs, it's like one audience here, a second audience there, and now it's just like it's going to be out, and I'm still going to be traveling, kind of doing press for the film, and my only regret is that I'm not going to be in Australia for when it releases, because I sort of was fantasizing about like just wandering to my local cinema and just kind of seeing.
Why is it not in Australia?
Because I'll still be here doing like a little bit of press of the next couple of weeks. So yeah, but
okay,
I can't believe it. You know,
but it's kind of a moment like it's. I guess you didn't expect that while you were doing the film. But was it a moment maybe when filming it, maybe in post-production, you were like, I think I've got something here. This might be good.
Yeah, I mean, I always, you know, I was really proud of the script, and then to get these actors, I was like, oh my god, like this is a massive deal for me. And then just, you know, being on set, it was great. But there was probably the day on set, it was maybe even like only the third or fourth day, so it was pretty early on. There was a day that involved kind of a first like big prosthetics gag. And we had Dave and Allison in this prosthetic that they were connected together, and they literally had to be together for like 8 to 10 hours of the day. And not only that, but Allison, for the blocking of the scene, is kind of mounting Dave, who's like strapped into a chair. And we were filming that scene, and just everybody was behind the camera, just like stifling laughter, like at the intentional kind of comedy of it. It was so good. It was just like watching these pros do it, and like the makeup looked amazing, the prosthetic was great, and I think everybody on set that day felt like, oh, this is truly special.
Yeah, you're starting to get the feeling like I think we're doing something right. Like even if it fails, at least that was fun, I guess.
Yeah, like it was an amazing thing, because we were filming that, and we were all kind of like, we left set that day all thinking, well, that's going to be the best scene of the movie.
Yeah.
And then we shot this other scene like a couple of days later, where like that involves Dave and some more prosthetics and some hair, and we were like, oh no, that's crazy, that's going to be the best scene of the movie. And then a few days later we shot the scene in a bathroom stall, and we're like, oh no, that's going to be the best scene of the movie. And it just like everything was so kind of like, all the set pieces were so kind of like different and so kind of exciting to be there on the set. Like that was what was really fun.
You mentioned a lot of things like I'm going to come back to, but just to preface once again, I come from Horror Quebec. It's a horror website, all things horror. So there's no denying the horror influence in your film, in Together.
Of course, yeah.
So I mean, of course, there's the obvious, you know, references to The Thing and Cronenberg, but everything body horror at the end of the day is going to be compared to that. So how do you manage to approach a project like that and make it your own thing?
Well, I'm such a fan of the body horror genre. Like, obviously, as you say, things like The Thing, the entire oeuvre of Cronenberg. We're here in Canada. He's, you know, I believe he is your prime minister. Is that right?
Almost, we wish. I wish.
You know, also like Brian Usner and Stuart Gordon's work with like Society and Reanimator. Like, I love all of that stuff. To try and like the designs of the body horror that happens in this is you know, we did want it to have a point of difference. And as much as I like love those 80s films, like the kind of heyday of body horror, I didn't want this to just be like, I didn't want this to kind of be kitsch. I didn't want this to be like an ironic sort of throwback. And one of my like kind of directions for how to approach the body horror was to try and avoid the sort of like slimy, gooey, lubricated kind of quality that a lot of body horror has, and instead I wanted to try and embrace like, what if that body horror was kind of dry and crackly and painful, and like it was even written in the script that there's this sort of trauma that happens to the main character's hands, and I was thinking of this like memory I have of an uncle who used to shake my hand way too hard, and I could just like feel the tendons like kind of collapse, and I was like, I kind of want it to feel like, you know when an uncle shakes your hand? Like that's what I want that scene to kind of like look like and feel like. You get it? Okay, bye.
You nailed that part of it. But we talk about the horror, but more than anything else, it's about a relationship, a couple that's falling apart. So like, how do you mix the drama between the two, and then afterwards incorporate the supernatural elements that come to it? Like, how did this idea idea came to life?
The idea really kind of came as one. I was sort of thinking about the idea. Well, I mean, in my own life, I've been with my partner now for almost 17 years.
Congratulations!
And, thank you. Yeah. And when I wrote the film, we were probably approaching 10 years of being together. And I was kind of thinking about how we are living the same life, like how intertwined we are. We have the same friends, we eat the same food, we breathe the same air. I didn't really know where I ended and she began. And I was like, that's kind of scary. Like, am I losing my identity and just becoming one part of this kind of greater whole? And then I thought, like, oh, there could be a movie about that, like a couple whose lives are so intertwined that they start to become intertwined, like, of the flesh as well. And from then I thought, okay, cool, that could be like a body horror. Like, and my taste is so like genre based. Like, I would never make a film that isn't like kind of super kind of genre heavy. Mm-hmm. And once I thought body horror, I was like, oh yes, I could do a body horror movie. This could be great. And the first scene I wrote for the film is a scene that kind of takes place maybe kind of like 2/3 of the way through in a corridor where it's kind of a nighttime scene in a corridor that ends in like a big body horror set piece. Yeah. And I wrote that just to be like, okay, if that's the premise, what would a scene look like? Mm-hmm. And then I wrote that scene and I liked the scene and I thought, okay, that's kind of my proof of concept of that's how it will work as a genre film now. Now, what is the story? What are the characters? What are the kind of emotional stakes? Mm-hmm. And I really wrote. The more I wrote it. I'm so sorry.
Come on. I get it. It's a joke. It's okay. Get out of here. But I didn't want to interrupt you. Well, she did actually, but
yes,
it's a joke, Melody. But you talk about the your couple and your mm-hmm. relationship, and let's talk about the casting process.
Yeah,
you got Dave Franco, Alison Brie. They're a real couple. They're married. They've been together for a long time. Mm-hmm. So how did you did it make it easier to shoot, or was it a challenge because you want them to incorporate the characters you wrote for them? Or it kind of like became organic in some way?
No, it was so much easier. Like, it would have been impossible without a married couple. Just not only did they have this shorthand and this familiarity, and you can kind of feel it, I think, when you watch it, that they do have this history together, but also just on a practical level, we only had 21 days to shoot this movie, and that was 21 days. Yeah. So it was a really short turnaround time for for how ambitious this is with the amount of sort of set pieces. Mm-hmm. And having these actors that were just so locked in with one another and were so comfortable being vulnerable with each other, because they've got to be so emotionally vulnerable, but also like physically vulnerable in this. As I've said, like there was a day where they were basically fully nude just like the whole day, and they were just like so fine with that in front of each other. There was a day where they were joined together, and we didn't have backups of the prosthetic. Like, we had to preserve it, and they're so fragile. So they were like, if they needed to go to the bathroom, they had to slowly get to the bathroom and then pee in front of each other whilst they're touching. Like, that would have been an extremely strange experience.
I imagine two people not knowing each other getting to that role. But at the same time, I was like thinking like maybe it could have been a challenge in a way, because like you're thinking like you don't want to be Dave and Alison. You want them to be the both characters you have in the film. But I guess that was not a problem.
No, and they're really nothing like the characters like they play. Well, their relationship isn't like that. Like, although the specifics from the characters, I mean, particularly all the negative stuff about Dave's character, that's all from my life. Of just kind of being sort of like pathetic and needy, and sort of kind of having lofty artistic ambitions.
Yeah, and I mean, the opening is extremely crucial in the film, and it's setting the tone right away. I thought you nailed it, and one of the reasons it works is the production design and the mysterious place that exists in the film. So what was your collaboration with the art department? Did you always have like the visual identity of the film crafted out in your head?
I've been sort of gestating on this idea for so long now that I definitely had visuals in my head, but it was absolutely a collaboration with our amazing art department. Our production designer, Nicholas Dare, doesn't get enough credit. That cave set, it was an extraordinary feat. It's such a low budget film. The size of that set, like we pushed it as big as we possibly could, and it's a set that needed to have kind of running water into it, and this pool element, and there's also for a certain gag there's air bladders sewn into the wall so that we can make the cave kind of breathe. The cave had to be dog friendly and actor friendly. That was a huge achievement that those guys pulled together. There was a bit of Alien, definitely like influenced in that.
Did you ever watch The Empty Man?
I have, yeah.
So do you feel, it reminded me a little bit of The Cave, like in that movie. I don't know if that's something that influenced you, or maybe just like unconsciously. So.
No, it actually did.
Yeah.
when we were storyboarding it, I was like, okay, what films kind of recently got like some, because when you're kind of also communicating to the DP, maybe more so than the art department, of like, how do I want this to look? What's a kind of like, what's a great looking like horror film that's got modern characters in a cave? And I was thinking The Descent obviously came to mind. And The Empty Man was kind of the other one. So I was like, taking like still frames from that and sitting to the DP and being like, doesn't this look cool? Doesn't this look awesome?
It does, actually. And you nailed it. Really like love the production design on all fronts, but the cave specifically, it's kind of like mesmerizing. You don't know what that place is. And just so let's talk about the visual effect while we're at it. So without a doubt, it's one of the strongest aspects of the film. You come from a VFX background. And I noticed there's a lot of little details that really work for me. But I'm wondering, with someone who has a background in VFX, how do you come about and then like collaborate with this huge team and like this big fucking team and like the first time working on a big budget? Like how do you approach that?
Well, it was crazy because I was sort of like fanboying out a little bit about working with like particularly Framestore, who do our really high-end visual effects shots in the film. It's the number of shots in the film is something like 170 visual effects shots.
Wow.
And we sort of put like all of the budget, as much as we could, into the really high-end effects. So Framestore do 14 of those shots, for example, and Rise VFX do a few. And that left me to do 130 of the VFX shots myself for free, because it was the only way to kind of make it work for this budget level.
Yeah.
But that was great, because like I love doing visual effects and I love kind of working on the tools. But then, the effects that I'm able to do, I'm doing like in Adobe After Effects. I'm doing it alone in my room, and
That's
then
insane.
I'd go
and I think
into
that shows in their final product, because I think of, for example, David Sandberg, who's really used to doing like effects by himself.
Yeah.
When he comes and he faces a problem, a challenge during filming, he just solves it himself because he's used to do it. So I guess
that's it. Like the reason I learned VFX, like when I was like a teenager, was on YouTube stuff. It wasn't to become a VFX artist. It was to become a filmmaker that didn't need to worry about finding money, basically. And that by learning visual effects, I found it helped me as a writer, because I think other independent filmmakers of that kind of age, at least the ones I encountered, were afraid of writing the abstract or the surreal or the horrific, because they wouldn't know how to kind of like, oh no, how are we going to find the money to do it? And I was just like, well, I'll figure it out. So like, no matter what I'll just like follow the idea and just kind of worry about it later. So, there were so many. Our poor visual effects supervisor, Genevieve Camilleri, who was amazing. Like I'd be like, oh, okay, we can just fix that in post, don't worry about it. And she's like, we don't have budget to fix that in post. And I'm like, I'll fix it in post. She was like a bit suspicious that I could do it. And I'm like, no, trust me, Jen, I can do it. But to again just talk about Framestore, I did these shots kind of on my own in my room, and then I'd go into Framestore, and they have teams of dozens of people working just like in the software I could never possibly understand. And then like going into like this cinema room and watching like the big effects shots in this movie, I was like blown away. Like they are a company like where over like my lunch break, I'll just like watch their VFX reels. And so to kind of work with them was just unreal.
Well, I guess it must have been like so satisfying at the end when you see the final product. Like, what are you most like proud of, or what's the most exciting for you? Was it like working with them, the post-production process, or just seeing the film and the actual product at the end?
I mean, yeah, probably seeing the whole film at once. We didn't do test screening, so I hadn't seen it with an audience. Like me and like the editorial team were just doing it in this kind of little shoebox room in Melbourne. And then we got into Sundance, and that was amazing. And we kind of thought like, well, we like this movie. I hope other people do. And then the very first screening, sitting there at Sundance, it was like a 2,000-person theater. And there's like a little joke kind of 5 minutes in, and the whole room kind of chuckled. And I thought, ooh. And then 5 minutes later, there's a scare, and everybody went, and I was like, oh, and I'm holding my partner's hand, and I'm holding one of the producer's hand, and we're just sitting like that the whole time, and like that was an amazing experience.
Well, you talk about reaction from the audience. I think you unlocked a sexual nightmare for me with the scene in the bathroom.
Of course,
I'm not gonna say more about it. It's nerve-wracking, it's stressful, and I'll be honest, after that, I almost didn't want to touch my girlfriend for a while. Sorry, Genevieve, by the way. Sorry about that. But how do you like? I mean, it was important, I guess, for you to build up the trouble they have in bathroom to lead up to those moments.
Yes.
In the bedroom, sorry.
Yeah.
And then you get to that sequence, which is totally wild. So how do you build it up? Like, what was your thought process with that?
I think, the idea of that scene, like the kernel of that idea actually came from my partner. When I was telling her about the process, she was like, of the premise, and she was like, oh, this should happen. And I was like, no, that's too far. And then I thought, no, it's not. That's awesome. So I kind of like reverse engineered like how would you give such emotional stakes to a sex scene of a couple that's been together for a long time? So you would assume that they would kind of already have a very like comfortable sexual relationship, and so by finding them at a point where their sex life has been not working well, and that's maybe because of the sort of traumatic thing that's recently happened to Tim, and he's just kind of in his own head, and he's maybe kind of freaking out, that essentially making her kind of thirstier for it, and then suddenly switching that dynamic was just a way to make that scene hopefully like satisfying, and then upping the stakes by the location of that scene.
Yes.
And kind of what happens afterwards.
Well, it's the old stress of like, are you being caught or not? And that's sometimes when people have those relations and they like that, it's a little thrill. But in that scene, it is not fun. It's really like, it's a nightmare, literally.
I'm so proud of that scene. Like I remember when I was just like, when I came up with the idea of like at the kind of after the thing happens in that scene, and I was like, oh, what if they look down and there's like shoes under the door? I was like, oh my god, I have to.
Perfect decision.
Yeah.
And there's also something being said about the separation anxiety. And I guess like I was gonna ask, but I feel like I got the answer from talking to you. But is it the kind of themes that you wanted to tackle right from the start? And did you brought something from your own life within those characters?
Definitely. I mean, in terms of like separation anxiety, I am like quite an anxious person. Like
I am as well, so I understand.
Yeah, like I'm on anti-anxiety meds. Like I've gone out and like had so many panic attacks throughout my life. That being with my partner is one of those times that I feel like really safe, and so sometimes kind of confronting that is like, wow, that is a type of codependency, like which is thank God for my partner for making me feel safe, but like God, what a horrible thing to kind of not just feel kind of safe in your own company.
Yeah, and you talk about that. My friend Mathieu can attest to that. Earlier, we were at the restaurant, so many people, and I just started getting anxiety from all the people around, and it's totally normal. But at the same time, you get comfort with the people that you're sharing your life with. So
yeah, exactly.
That's definitely something that I saw in Together. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a kind of this embarrassing footage that must be on Dave's phone, because Dave essentially has like a panic attack in this movie, and he was like, what does that really look like? And I was like, well, I have panic attacks all the time, so I'll show you. So he's like filmed me like pretending to have panic attacks and kind of showing him all my little things. And yeah, he nailed it. He's great in it.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, you craft something great, and there's a lot of stuff in development. If I'm not mistaken, you're working on Hotel. It was on the blacklist for 2021. Is that still in the work? Or?
Yeah, so that's this other script that I've written. Actually, it was sort of the attention that script was getting is kind of how this project ended up coming together. And so now on the other side of this, it would be my dream would be to make that film next. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, because I mean, there's something about it. Also, time trap. If you're not, if I'm not mistaken, something you're working on. So you're at the point. Like, I'm just gonna break it to you, but your career is gonna go good from that point on. So what would you want to do next? What's the next thing you would really like to do?
The thing that I would love to do next would be this script that I've written, Hotel.
Okay.
It's a very silly name, but it's a script that took me years to write. It's really complicated, and I think it's really unique, but also like a really good time. And like I'm really drawn to projects that are technically challenging. I like I grew up loving the films of like Peter Jackson and George Lucas and James Cameron, where like I want as much as like the writer in me wants to focus so much on the characters and the themes and the emotional truth of the story, like I also like want to be working with visual effects teams and practical effects teams, and just making stuff where I'm like, when I would watch it, I would go, how the hell did they pull this off? Like that really excites me.
Yeah, and what's the image you would like to give, like for future generation, the image of yourself that you would like to give for future generation of filmmakers or people in general?
Like what people would think of me?
Yeah.
Oh, God, I haven't ever
or
really
just
thought
like
about that.
a good influence you want to give to other people.
What's been really lovely is having the cast and crew of this film as we were shooting it. Somebody from the crew came up and said, God, it's really nice to work with a director who's passionate for once, which I was kind of horrified by, that other directors maybe aren't, but I think there's so many jobs that people take because it's a job, and you need to kind of work, and you need, so I don't know, it's been really nice that people have looked back on working with this production and actually had a really like positive experience. And so I think the film speaks for itself, but I also am really proud that the experience on set was like really quite fun.
Yeah, so I'm going to leave you there, but if there's one thing, one influence that really came across that film, what's something you could name, like something that really pushed you to do that film or just something that influenced your career in general?
I would say the thing that really influenced me as a kid was watching the Lord of the Rings special features, on all those DVDs. Where I love those movies so much, and then when we were breaking down the craft of them, was really where I like realized, oh, people actually make these things, and maybe I could one day too.
It can be intimidating, like to just jump into films, and I saw all your short films.
Oh,
great job. No, but you're doing a great job on YouTube, and then you get this chance, and the movie's blowing up. So I'm seeing, like, I'm in my crystal ball. I see great things for you in the future.
Thank you. Thank you so much. From your lips to God's ears, as they say.
Thanks for your time, Michael. Thank you so much.
Thank you
so much. Thanks. All right.
Oh, that was fun.
Yeah. Well, thanks, man. It was fun for me as well.